After the devastation of World War II, German war brides arrive in America, hoping for a new beginning. But as they step off the ships and glimpse the endless rows of white-picket homes, symbols of an idyllic American dream, they are frozen by the stark contrast between their bombed-out past and this seemingly perfect, yet unsettling suburban future. Their journey is not just across an ocean, but into a foreign prosperity that feels both alien and impossibly distant from the ruins they left behind. 1946, New York Harbor. The SS Argentina docks, a vast gray hull stained with the grime of a transatlantic journey, yet gleaming with the promise of a new world under the indifferent afternoon sun. It carried not cargo, but human freight. Hundreds of war brides, many of them German, their faces a canvas of hope and unimaginable fear. The air, crisp with the scent of salt and coal smoke, vibrated with a nervous energy that was almost palpable. From the ruins of war-torn Germany to the pristine streets of American suburbia, a journey from devastation to the American dream that feels more like a leap into an unsettling unknown, a dive into an abyss of the unfamiliar. What city are you watching from? Imagine stepping into a world so different from your own, a stark reality check after surviving a global war, where every familiar comfort has been stripped away, replaced by an unsettling abundance. Anna Mueller clutched a worn photograph of her American GI husband, John, her knuckles white against the faded image, as if holding on to a last vestige of certainty. Her hands still carried the phantom weight of rubble, the memory of scavenging for scraps in the skeletal remains of what was once Berlin. She had been a ghost in a city of ghosts, her existence defined by scarcity and fear. She was young, barely 22, but her eyes held the ancient weariness of 100 years, reflecting the grim landscapes of her past. Raised under Nazi ideology, Anna had been taught to view Americans as brutal, uncultured enemies, the very antithesis of order and tradition, an insidious force of moral decay. They were the barbarians, the destroyers of a supposed superior culture. Now she was married to one, irrevocably tied to the very people she had been conditioned to despise, a living contradiction of everything she was taught. The irony was a bitter taste in her mouth, a cruel twist of fate that mocked her youth. As the ship's horn blared, a deep resonant sound vibrating through the steel deck and into her bones, Anna's mind reeled back, a dizzying montage of terror. She recalled the acrid smell of burning cities, the metallic tang of fear and soot that clung to every breath during the endless air raids, the chilling, rising whistle of Allied bombs, followed by the earth-shattering roar that shook the very foundations of her existence, shattering both buildings and belief. Even the damp, moldy scent of the underground bunkers, where she had huddled with strangers, became a twisted form of comfort, a familiar stench of survival, compared to the terrifying silence that descended after a strike, the profound silence of a city holding its breath before the cries of the wounded began. Now, the overwhelming scent of pine and salt air from the harbor mixed with the unfamiliar aroma of American coffee wafting from a dockside concession stand, a sweet, cloying smell that felt wrong, almost sacrilegious, an unsettling contrast that assaulted her senses. The sheer cacophony of a bustling, undamaged port, the shouting of dock workers, the joyous laughter of reuniting families, the distant rumble of traffic, the blare of car horns, was almost as terrifying as the war's explosions, simply for its alien normalcy, its unapologetic, vibrant life. It was too much, too loud, too new, too untouched. Her head throbbed, a dull ache behind her eyes. She pressed a hand to her temple, trying to ground herself in the unfamiliar reality, to make sense of this dizzying shift from one extreme to another. John's face was the first she truly recognized in the throng below, a beacon in the sea of strange faces, a familiar landmark in an alien landscape. He wore a crisp, tailored suit of light gray wool, a startling change from the rumpled uniform she remembered, his hair neatly combed back. He waved frantically, a broad American smile that stretched wide, but beneath the superficial cheer she detected a shadow in his eyes, a flicker of something she didn't yet understand, a hint of the man she knew buried beneath the American facade. Beside him stood a woman with neatly coiffed hair, pulled back into a severe bun, and a rigid, floral-patterned dress that seemed to scream propriety. Mrs. Henderson, John's mother. Anna had seen her in faded photographs, a stern matriarch. She looked even more formidable in person, her lips pressed into a thin line, her gaze sharp and dissecting. Anna took a deep breath, the stale, recycled air of the ship giving way to the surprisingly clean, yet overwhelmingly foreign scent of the American air. This was it. No turning back. She was no longer Anna Müller of Berlin, a survivor of a fallen empire, but Anna Henderson, a German war bride, stepping onto foreign soil, into a future she could barely conceive, a role she was ill-equipped to play. Anna stepped off the gangplank, her legs feeling like lead, a fragile figure amidst a sea of eager faces. Her small, battered suitcase, a relic of her old life, was her only anchor to the past, a symbol of everything she had managed to save. John rushed forward, a relieved laugh escaping his lips as he embraced her, lifting her slightly off her feet. His arms were strong, familiar, the warmth of his body a momentary comfort, yet she felt a tremor of fear, an unease she couldn't place. It wasn't the John she knew from the bombed-out canteen in Hamburg, the quiet, melancholic soldier who had offered her a precious piece of chocolate and a tentative, understanding smile. This was an American John, confident and bright, almost a stranger in his overwhelming cheerfulness, a man who seemed to have shed the war's grime along with his uniform. His parents, Mr. and Mrs. Henderson, offered polite, almost forced smiles. Mrs. Henderson's handshake was stiff, unyielding, her touch cold. "Welcome to America, dear," she said, her voice polite, each word clipped, but her eyes betrayed a hint of suspicion and judgment regarding Anna's past. There was an unspoken question, a silent judgment that hung in the air, thick and oppressive, despite the veneer of cheerful greetings. It was the question of her loyalty, her past, her inherent otherness. They ushered her into a gleaming Ford sedan, its polished chrome catching the sunlight, blinding her momentarily. It felt impossibly luxurious, the soft leather seats a jarring contrast to the hard wooden benches of the troop ship, let alone the cold, damp stone of German air raid shelters. This car, she thought, cost more than her entire family had owned before the war. As they drove away from the bustling docks, the initial urban sprawl slowly gave way to endless tree-lined streets, meticulously manicured lawns rolling by like emerald carpets. Each lawn led to rows upon rows of identical white-picket homes, each one a pristine, untouched fortress of peace, their freshly painted facades gleaming under the afternoon sun. Not a single brick seemed out of place, not a window shattered, not a roof damaged. It was too perfect, too clean, too unreal. It was a picture postcard come to life, devoid of the scars she carried, the scars that defined her world. She was not merely surprised but frozen, an internal paralysis seizing her. A profound disorientation washed over her, an almost physical jolt, like stepping into an alternate dimension. This wasn't the chaos she knew, the familiar struggle for survival, nor the humble communal rebuilding she had envisioned. This was an alien, almost offensive level of untouched prosperity that screamed of a reality she could not comprehend, a silence that was louder than any bomb. How could a war so vast, so consuming, have left this place so utterly unblemished? It felt like a cruel joke, a cosmic imbalance. The houses, she noted, were almost identical, their uniformity a strange kind of conformity she found unsettling. In Germany, every house bore the marks of its history, its survival. Here, they were sterile, brand new, as if history had never touched them. It filled her with an aching sense of otherness, a profound loneliness in the face of such alien perfection. More than 70,000 German war brides immigrated to the U.S. After White-Picket, a quiet invasion of women seeking a new life, often stepping into a world utterly unlike anything they knew. A world where the war was something distant, abstract, an event that had happened somewhere else, to other people. An excerpt from a letter home dated 1946 that Anna later discovered in a collection of war bride testimonies perfectly captured her unspoken dread. They live in houses so neat, so new, it's as if the war never touched them. I cannot reconcile this with the ashes of Berlin, with the hunger in my stomach. It is a dream, and I fear waking up. The dream was indeed a nightmare of otherness, a constant reminder of everything she had lost, contrasted with everything these people had seemingly never had to fight for. Anna's struggle intensified as she tried to navigate the relentless cheerfulness and superficiality of suburban life. Every potluck, every garden party, every gathering of John's family felt like a meticulously rehearsed performance, a tableau of domestic bliss designed to showcase an effortless prosperity. The women discussed recipes for gelatin molds that shimmered with unnatural colors, the latest detergents that promised whiter whites, and the subtle nuances of local gossip. Their voices were light and carefree, their worries seemingly trivial against the backdrop of her own memories. Anna, still tasting ash in her memories, could only nod, offering hesitant smiles that felt like grimaces, her internal world miles away from their suburban anxieties. This stark contrast to the grim authenticity of survival she knew was a constant, gnawing pain, a silent scream within her. She longed for the raw, honest conversations of scarcity and fear, the shared understanding of trauma that bonded her to her countrywomen. Here, it was as if acknowledging suffering was a social faux pas, a breach of an unspoken code of cheerful denial. The language barrier became a constant, humiliating obstacle. Simple conversations were fraught with misunderstandings, isolating Anna further within her own home and community. She mispronounced words, used incorrect idioms, and often found herself staring blankly as conversations flowed around her, a prisoner in a cage of incomprehension. A polite suggestion from a neighbor about joining the local bridge club became a bewildering exchange, the rules of the game as foreign as the social etiquette surrounding it, leaving Anna feeling foolish and small, her intellect diminished by her inability to articulate. She would often excuse herself, retreating to her bedroom, her sanctuary, where she could finally breathe, away from the demanding smiles and the relentless stream of English words that tangled in her mind. She found solace in a small German-language newspaper she secretly acquired from a specialty shop in the nearest city, its familiar Gothic script a balm to her soul. It spoke of reconstruction, of hardship, of Heimat, home. The familiar phrases were a whispered comfort, a connection to a world that was rapidly fading. While GIs received parades and benefits upon return, their foreign wives often faced immense cultural pressure, not to mention suspicion. Records show that nearly 50% of these marriages ended in divorce within 5 years, highlighting the immense strain placed on these relationships. Marriages often formed in the fleeting chaos of war. Many foreign wives struggled with assimilation, loneliness, and the insidious creep of prejudice. A snippet from a 1947 newspaper article that Mrs. Henderson once left carelessly on the kitchen table, which Anna painstakingly translated, screamed from the headlines, "Foreign brides, a challenge to American assimilation?" hinting at public skepticism and the pervasive fear of the other still lingering from the war. It was a thinly veiled accusation, a question of loyalty that haunted her every interaction. One afternoon, a neighbor, Mrs. Perkins, a woman with a perpetually bewildered expression and an endless supply of questions, approached Anna while she was attempting to prune roses in John's perfectly manicured garden. Mrs. Perkins, adorned in a pristine apron, her hair set in immaculate curls, held a plate of freshly baked cookies, their sweet aroma sickly cloying to Anna's senses. "Wasn't it awful, all that fighting?" Mrs. Perkins chirped, her voice oblivious to the chasm between them, her eyes wide with a superficial sympathy. "We just tried to forget about it here, you know. Life goes on." She offered a saccharine smile, pushing the plate towards Anna. Anna's grip tightened on the shears, her knuckles white. Forget it? How could one forget the taste of starvation, the scream of dying men, the sight of a city reduced to dust? This woman, with her spotless apron and her plump, unscarred hands, had no concept of the trauma Anna carried, the indelible marks etched onto her soul. The cheerful ignorance was a deeper wound than any direct insult, a testament to the vast, unbridgeable gulf between their experiences. The War Brides Act of 1945 facilitated the entry of over 100,000 foreign spouses, a pragmatic decision to reunite servicemen with their wives, but it offered little in the way of cultural integration support, leaving many feeling adrift, like flotsam washed ashore on an alien coast. A faded immigration form, marked German national, stored in a dusty box in John's study, served as a stark reminder of the bureaucratic hurdles and the lingering enemy alien perception. Anna's citizenship was a fragile thing, her status precarious, contingent on her husband's goodwill and the capricious whims of a nation that had just fought her own. She was a guest, always, never truly a citizen in the eyes of many. Every interaction was a tightrope walk. At dinner parties, her quiet demeanor was often misinterpreted as aloofness or even suspicion. She'd overhear hushed whispers about her past, glances exchanged between guests. "She's German, you know." The words, though soft, carried the undeniable weight of judgment, a scarlet letter she couldn't remove, an invisible brand that set her apart. John would squeeze her hand under the table, a silent plea for her to ignore it, to smile, to play the part of the happy war bride, the perfectly assimilated foreigner. But the act was exhausting, draining her spirit day by day, chipping away at her sense of self. She would find herself staring into her reflection, trying to recognize the woman staring back. The haunted eyes were still there, but now overlaid with a veneer of forced politeness, a strained gaiety that felt utterly foreign, a costume she wore for the world. Her dreams were fractured, nightmares of bombs and rubble interspersed with surreal visions of smiling women in pristine kitchens, offering her jello molds she could not eat. One evening, after a particularly strained dinner with John's colleagues, where a man had jovially asked her if she had known any real Nazis, a question delivered with a wink and a leer that made her skin crawl, Anna finally broke. The casual cruelty of the inquiry, the way her entire heritage was reduced to a grotesque caricature, was too much. She confronted John in their bedroom, the meticulously decorated space suddenly feeling suffocating, the floral wallpaper pressing in on her. "They look at me as if I am still the enemy," she whispered, her voice raw, tears streaming down her face, blurring the pristine American room. "They see the uniform, not the woman. They see only the guilt, never the suffering." John, usually so calm, so understanding, snapped, his face usually a mask of gentle patience contorted with a flash of anger she had never seen before, a primal fury that shocked her. "What do you expect, Anna? Do you think they've forgotten? Do you think I've forgotten what your people did? The hell I saw? The friends I lost in the Hurtgen forest, in the Ardennes?" His voice, usually modulated and soft, rose with a bitterness that chilled her to the bone, each word a shard of ice. "Do you know what it felt like to crawl through frozen mud, knowing that every German in front of you wanted to kill you? To see what we saw? To endure what we endured?" Anna froze, the tears drying on her cheeks. This was it, the great unspoken truth, the gaping wound that separated them, wider than any ocean, deeper than any bomb crater. She discovered, in that agonizing moment through his strained, venomous words, that her husband, John, harbored a deep, unspoken resentment towards Germans due to the atrocities he witnessed and the friends he lost in the war. His kindness towards her, his unwavering support, his very act of marrying her, she realized with a sickening lurch, was intertwined with a desperate, almost pathological need to fix or redeem something he fought against. He had brought her to America not just out of love, but out of a profound, perhaps unconscious desire to prove that he could save something from the wreckage, that his love could transcend the hatred. He saw her as a personal victory, a living symbol of peace. It created an invisible wall between them built of unspoken trauma and unaddressed guilt, a barrier far more formidable than any physical boundary. The picture-perfect American dream she was trying to inhabit, to desperately cling to, was also John's desperate attempt to escape his own war demons, to bury the ghosts of Europe under the pristine lawns of suburbia. Her husband, her supposed savior, was also a prisoner of the past, and she, unknowingly, had become his project of atonement, a vessel for his unresolved pain. The truth hit her like a physical blow, leaving her breathless, her world tilting precariously on its axis. The vast logistics of transporting thousands of war brides across the Atlantic were staggering, a testament to the immense human tide shifting across continents. These were not luxury cruises, not even comfortable voyages. The SS Argentina, like many vessels, was a repurposed troop transport, hastily converted to accommodate civilian women and children, often with little thought for comfort or privacy. Anna remembered the cramped quarters, the pervasive smell of disinfectant mixed with seasickness, the constant low thrum of the engines, the interminable days staring at the gray expanse of the ocean. The medical checks were invasive, the questions intrusive, the paperwork endless, each document a hurdle designed to scrutinize, to verify, to ensure that these foreign women, perceived as potential risks or burdens, were suitable for American society. The sheer organizational feat required to process these new arrivals into a country often unprepared for their trauma and foreignness was immense, a logistical marvel of bureaucracy meeting human need, often with cold efficiency rather than warmth. Yet they came, hoping for refuge, for a fresh start, clutching their precious visas and even more precious hopes. Anna found herself walking a legal tightrope, constantly aware of her precarious status, a constant anxiety gnawing at her. Navigating citizenship was a labyrinthine process, her rights often unclear, subject to the whims of officials and the prejudices of society. Property rights were a distant dream. Beyond the legalities were the subtle societal pressures to shed her foreignness, to speak only English, to embrace American customs, to forget her past, to erase her identity. It was a demand for total assimilation, a cultural erasure. Psychologically, she grappled with an unbearable survivor's guilt, a constant question echoing in her mind. Why her? Why had she been spared when so many others perished in the firestorm? This guilt was compounded by profound cultural dislocation, the agonizing sense of not belonging, of being an outsider looking in, forever separated by an invisible wall. The burden of representing the enemy to many, including subtly her own husband, was a constant silent battle, exhausting her spirit. Her identity was fractured, caught between the shattered fragments of her past in Germany and the unyielding demands of her present in America, torn between loyalty to her heritage and the necessity of adapting. Every choice, every word, felt like a betrayal of one world or the other, a compromise she hadn't known she had to make. The War Brides Act, while undoubtedly a humanitarian effort to reunite families, unintentionally created a generation of women caught tragically between two worlds, their lives suspended in a liminal space. This wasn't merely a matter of geography. It was a profound cultural and emotional schism, a division within their very souls. Many war brides, like Anna, found themselves in profound isolation, their husbands often unable or unwilling to fully comprehend their experiences, their silent struggles dismissed or misunderstood. This unique situation contributed to unforeseen challenges in family structures. As children grew up with mothers who carried unspoken burdens, their resilience born of trauma, and to broader community integration issues, as towns grappled with the influx of women from the very nations they had fought against, their presence a constant reminder of a painful past. This mass immigration led not just to new families, but to profound, often silent cultural shifts within American society, subtly altering its fabric in ways no one had anticipated, weaving new threads into the national tapestry, sometimes with resistance, sometimes with grace. The argument with John had been a detonation, not loud, not with shouting, but with the quiet, devastating force of two souls cracking open under immense, prolonged pressure. It had been building for months, years even, under the veneer of their carefully constructed suburban life, like pressure accumulating in a fault line. His words, dripping with the pain of his own war, had finally ripped away her last illusion, leaving her exposed and vulnerable. Anna stood before him, her body trembling, not from fear, but from a surge of righteous anger, a primal need to be seen, truly seen, not as a German, not as a war bride, but as Anna. "You think I don't know what happened?" she challenged him, her voice trembling but gaining strength with each word, rising from a whisper to a fierce declaration. "You think I did not see it? Feel it? Do you think I did not lose everything just like your friends?" Her hands gestured wildly, encompassing the room, the house, the entire impossibly clean suburb outside, a vast, indifferent landscape. "You brought me here to forget, but you are trying to forget too. You brought me here to cleanse yourself, to make right what you saw, but I am not a clean slate, John. I am Anna from Berlin. I carry the ashes in my heart, and I will not pretend they are not there." Each word was a brick thrown at the wall he had built between them, a desperate attempt to break through. John recoiled, his face pale, his composure shattered. He was a raw wound, exposed, his defenses crumbled. He loved her. He knew that. But her German past was a shadow he couldn't reconcile with the bright, uncomplicated future he so desperately wanted to build. He saw her as a chance for redemption, a personal victory over the war, a living testament to his idealism. He saw her as a woman he could protect, provide for, Americanize, transform into someone who fit neatly into his white-picket fence world. But he had never truly seen her pain, only his own reflection in it, only what her suffering could absolve in him. He had sought to erase her past, not to understand it. Mrs. Henderson, alerted by the raised voices, stood in the doorway, her tight expression a silent, judgmental observation, a disapproving guardian of propriety. She was the embodiment of societal expectations, the silent guardian of prejudice, her presence amplifying the pressure, the demand for conformity, for Anna to be quiet, to assimilate, to become invisible. Anna knew, deep in her gut, that this was the moment, the breaking point, the moment of truth. She had to decide, does she abandon this sterile, unfulfilling American dream, this gilded cage, and attempt to return to a broken homeland, a place of scarcity and endless rebuilding, where she would at least be understood, where her scars would be recognized? Or does she fight to carve out a genuine space for herself and her truth within this new, alien world, confronting John's demons as well as her own, demanding to be seen for who she truly is, scars and all? The thought of going back to the ruins, to the hunger, to the raw struggle for survival, was terrifying. But the thought of living a lie, a ghost in a gilded cage perpetually performing happiness, was equally soul-crushing, a slow, agonizing death of the spirit. This wasn't just a battle for her marriage. It was a battle for her very identity, for her right to exist authentically, to claim her truth in a world that sought to silence it. The white picket fence outside their window, illuminated by the porch light, seemed to glow with an oppressive, suffocating white, a symbol of conformity she was determined to shatter. Anna decided to stay, but with a new condition: authenticity. The argument, though brutal and lacerating, had been a necessary catharsis. It had stripped away the pretense, revealing the raw, aching truths beneath. She couldn't unsee what she had seen in John, the pain he carried, but she could now understand it, and perhaps begin to heal it, for both of them. Their marriage, now stripped bare of its false pretenses, had a chance to rebuild on solid, if painful, ground. Her first step was to seek out her own. She started attending German-American community events advertised in the German newspaper she cherished, hesitantly at first, then with growing confidence. She met other German war brides, women whose eyes held the same haunted depths as her own, women who understood the unspoken weight of survivors' guilt and cultural displacement. They shared stories of their bombed-out towns, recipes for sauerbraten and Apfelstrudel, tears over lost loved ones, and laughter at their shared absurdities in navigating American life. In their company, Anna found a community that truly understood her plight, a place where she could speak her native tongue without shame or judgment, where her past was not a burden but a shared history. It was a lifeline, a balm for her lonely soul. She started a small German language club, teaching children traditional songs and stories, feeling a surge of purpose she hadn't known since arriving. She insisted on speaking German with her children as they came, teaching them lullabies and folk tales, recounting childhood memories of forests and castles. John, still grappling with his own demons, resisted initially. He feared they would be ostracized, that their Americanness would be diluted. But Anna stood firm, her resolve forged in the fires of war. They must know where they come from, John. They must know all of themselves. To deny them their heritage is to deny a part of me and a part of them. Slowly, painstakingly, she began to chip away at the perfect facade of her suburban life, introducing elements of her heritage into their pristine home. A beautifully carved Black Forest cuckoo clock replaced a simpler American timepiece. Hand-stitched samplers with German proverbs adorned the walls. The smell of stollen and gingerbread at Christmas mingled with the scent of pine. It wasn't about erasing America, but about integrating Germany. About creating a genuine, honest foundation with John, one built on acknowledging their shared traumas and respecting their distinct pasts. He began to listen, truly listen, to her stories, and in turn began to share more of his own war experiences, finding a quiet comfort in her understanding, finally understanding that healing was a shared journey, a two-way street. Her children grew up embracing both German and American cultures, speaking both languages fluently, moving effortlessly between the rigid grammar of German and the fluid slang of their American classmates. They were a living bridge, carrying stories from both sides of the war, embodying the complex legacy of their parents' generation. They were not simply assimilated, they were integrated, a testament to the strength found in duality, in the acceptance of a multifaceted identity. Their childhood tales were filled with both American Thanksgiving feasts and German Christmas markets, summer days at the local swimming pool, and winter evenings by the fire, listening to their mother's German folk tales. They were living proof that cultures could intertwine, creating something new and beautiful. Reflecting on her life decades later, Anna, now a grandmother with silver hair and eyes that had seen too much but understood more, would often sit in her garden. It was a vibrant space, filled with both American roses and hardy German edelweiss, a testament to the life she had cultivated. She saw how the experiences of war brides like her had contributed profoundly to the multicultural fabric of modern America, quietly challenging initial notions of homogeneity and paving the way for a more nuanced understanding of immigration and identity. Their struggles, often silent and unseen, had been integral to the ongoing evolution of a nation, weaving complex new patterns into its tapestry. Her own story echoed in every immigrant's journey, in every struggle for belonging, in every family that sought to blend cultures without erasing one. It was a testament to the quiet power of resilience, the stubborn refusal of the human spirit to be confined by labels or erased by history, to find peace not in forgetting, but in integrating. Love and resilience can bridge even the deepest divides, but only when truth and empathy pave the way. How do we today welcome those from different backgrounds into our communities, truly seeing their past and not just their potential for assimilation? How do we build bridges of understanding instead of walls of prejudice? If you want more untold stories from World War II that will make you question everything you thought you knew about history and the human spirit, hit that subscribe button. Let's uncover the silent battles fought long after the guns fell silent. If you found Anna's story as moving and insightful as we did, and you want to delve deeper into the untold human experiences of history, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now if you haven't already. Don't forget to give this video a like if it resonated with you, and share your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing from you and continuing the conversation.